Well, howdy y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Blemished. My name is Frances Cantu and this is my channel, Wife Stuff. And here on this series, I share with y'all just how blemished I am, but that we serve an unblemished God. All right, y'all, let's hop right into today's episode. I am going to get straight to the point. We went on a trip to San Antonio and I wanted to tell y'all why we actually went on that trip, because it wasn't for fun necessarily, although we did have fun while we were there. Let me just say that we had a blast. Husband Enoch and I, just going and walking around San Antonio was so awesome. Getting to see, the river walk and all of that stuff. And just, it was so cool to see how many people actually really walked, and it's basically set up to where you do have to walk, at least in that area or the section where our hotel was. You couldn't just it wasn't like you would park somewhere and then be able to go into a department store or whatever. We would have to pay for parking. You would have to park somewhere and then walk to wherever you were wanting to go. So it was really cool because I've never experienced anything like that. You know, over here, even in a small town, you usually drive to go and do whatever you want to do. Like, there's just houses and houses. We don't have very many stores and stuff. So it was just really nice to get out and walk and just enjoy nature. And we saw so many little critters out. It was just really, really cool and a fun experience. But the real reason that we went is because my biological mom, she actually passed away. I went to go and pay my respects. I initially thought that I was going to get to see some of my biological siblings, but they actually didn't end up being able to come. So that was a little bit of a bummer, I won't lie. Before anybody goes, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, all of that. If you don't know, I am adopted. And I was adopted by my, family. I have a whole other video about that. But the quick version is I lived with my biological mom up until I was about 6 weeks old. And then after that, I was with my family, and which is actually would have been my step family. It's just a whole scenario. But anyways, so I move in with them. And then from there, along the years, I was just passed around, kind of, not to sound like so dramatic, but that's kind of what happened. I went from home to home, within our family group. I eventually ended up with an aunt and uncle that I ended up calling mom and dad, and they have been my parents since I was about 12 years old and will forever be my parents. Finding out that she passed away was a little bit of a shock, but to explain how I felt in the very beginning, I'll be honest with you, I'll be transparent. I felt kind of nothing. But that's kind of how I work. I have to process things out. I have to, really think about things. And so I was talking to my husband about it, and I was just like, I don't really know how to feel. I don't really know, I haven't really been around her. Now, let me just say this too, though. There were times, seasons in my life where she was in the picture now and again. But I think the last time I ever spoke to her was around when I was 12 years old. Maybe a little bit earlier than that, maybe 11, but that time frame sounds about right. It was 11 or 12. And so I have not been around her. So I didn't know how to feel. So my first initial feeling was, I just don't know how to feel. After sleeping on it for a night and really kind of thinking about it and going to the Lord about it and just being like, Lord, I don't want to be insensitive. I don't want to be, feel any type of way, because here's the thing. I don't have any animosity toward my biological mom. I haven't in a long time. When that moment of when we last spoke, that was when I kind of made peace with the fact that she probably wasn't going to be a part of my life. And I just left it at that. And I didn't really think about it. I didn't really dwell on it. I didn't need to. I had family. I had a mom and dad. I didn't kind of need her. So my initial thought was I didn't have any feelings toward her, negatively nor positively. I just didn't know how to feel. It was just kind of a numb feeling of like, well, I mean, I don't know. Waking up the next morning, and like I said, after talking to God about it, I realized at the end of the day, I realized that she gave birth to me. So there was that respect of, although she wasn't a part of my life, I still had that respect and that kind of almost like this honor that I don't even know where it came from. I don't want to come off rude, but she didn't earn any of that honor, but went back to honor your mother and father. I just had that honor for the fact that she did give birth to me. And so then I did kind of have some emotion behind that, and I did end up, kind of breaking down for a little bit. It wasn't this long drawn out thing, but I realized, I think what I was grieving, or when it came to her, what I grieved after talking to some friends was, I think I was grieving the fact that I no longer was going to have the opportunity, if I ever did want to get to know her. Now, here's the thing. I never sat around and just thought like, oh, I want to get to know her or anything like that. Of course, there has always been curiosity in the back of my mind, especially as I'm getting older. Like, did I have some of her same mannerisms? Do I think a lot like her and things like that? Because when it comes to my daughter, she is almost like a printed image of me. And she does a lot of the things that I did as a kid that she would never know unless I told her these things. And so it just makes me think like, oh, is that something that comes from her, or, whatever. There's always been those curiosities in the back of my mind of, am I like her in any way? So I think what I was grieving was the fact that I no longer was going to have that opportunity to go and talk to her any longer. Like that opportunity, if I ever wanted it, had ceased. As far as I know, she was a believer. A friend of mine told me, you will have that opportunity one day to, have that conversation. And that was comforting to me. I think going to the funeral was something that I wanted to do, was to kind of put a closing to that chapter of my life. Last year, I believe it was last year, it might have been the year before, my husband kindly, lovingly, he is such a good gift giver, and one day he gave me the gift, I'm so horrible, but I believe it was for Christmas. He got the DNA testing done so that I could find out like where, what I am, like what comes of me, because I had always heard from my biological mom that I was this and I was that, like DNA wise, that I was half black, and then I was told I was this and I was that. And so I never got a definite answer. I just always kind of wanted to know, but again, it was one of those things that if it happens, it happens. If not, I'm just going to continue to go by what I know, by what I see. So to me, I looked at my hair and I thought, okay, well, obviously there's some ethnic something in there, right? My biological mom, she was Mexican, so I was like, okay, I'm obviously Mexican. There were those little things that were adding up, but come to find out through the DNA test, I'm actually like 40% Peruvian, and I'm only like 20% black, and like the rest of it is just of the Mexican heritage and all of that. So it was just really neat to find all of that out. When I found all of that out, it sparked an interest again for me to reach out and to find my siblings. I knew I had siblings. I knew I had older siblings because my biological mom, when she was a part of my life, she told me about them. And I knew like little tidbits, little pieces here and there. So, of course, I took to Facebook and I messaged all of them and was like, hey, this is a little weird, but I think I'm your sister. And so they answered back, and, we've kind of had conversations, here and there since then. But my biological sister was actually the one who reached out to me and notified me that our mom had passed away. Now, they all have the same dad. I'm the only one with a different dad, and I'm also the youngest of the siblings. I have a sister and two brothers that I have never actually met face to face. And so the opportunity arose for me to be able to meet them. And that was another initial reason that I wanted to go to the funeral. I thought, this is going to be my opportunity. I'm finally going to get to meet them. And so I thought it was going to be interesting. But like I said, they weren't able to come. So I didn't get to meet them. I wish that I would have, because I wanted to, record that experience and just have that for me. Now, that being said, like, I also wasn't sure about the family. If you don't know my story, I was raised by white people, okay? So I have different cultural barriers than others. So my husband likes to call me a unicorn because he's like, you're nothing like what people would expect you to be like, okay? You like country music, there's banjos playing in the background when you talk, like it's just the whole thing, right? I'm not what most people expect, I guess. I was nervous to meet that side of the family, because I've never been around that, the culture and all of that. And not even like that, like, I'm not saying anything against Mexicans or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is we just grew up differently. I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up in that type of culture. And so I was nervous to meet them. I was, for many reasons. One, because I've never met these people before in my life. And two, because I wasn't sure like what type of relationship to have necessarily, because I don't know that side of me. And I'm not necessarily sure now that I'm older, that I'm grown, that not anything against them, that I don't want to have a relationship with them specifically. It's just that so much time has gone on. I have a family of my own. I'm raising, my husband and I were doing life together. And so I simply just asked the Lord to really open my heart to, if this is a possibility, if this is something that you want for my life, if this is something, or if it was just that I needed to have that knowledge, if that was the only reason, then, you open any doors that need to be opened and you close any doors that need to be closed. And that's kind of where I still am today with it. I don't know how to feel. I've often gone back and forth in my mind, like, what would it be like had I been raised by her? I just think of all the different pieces and all the different things that I feel like missed out on. I would have never met my husband. I would have never had my kids, these kids, and, all of these things. And as crazy as it is, I'm grateful for the life that I have been given, and I can't see my life any other way. And that might be hard for some people to understand, but if I could go back and change it, I really wouldn't. I truly believe that the Lord has placed me in this season of life, in these days, in this time, to live out this life. And some people may not have that success story. They may have felt like they missed out on something, but I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I feel like I'm exactly where the Lord has placed me to be. And I'm probably never going to see the complete big picture, but I do see the bigger picture of where the Lord has led me and my family and my life. And so I don't know what the future holds with that side of my family. I'm open to whatever the Lord has for me. I want to walk in His will no matter what, because I can trust Him. I know thus far, like, literally, I can see where His hand has been in my life for so long. And the decisions and the things, even the stupidity that I have done, I can just see where the Lord has brought me out of the land of Egypt, and brought me into this promised land. And I'm okay with whatever God has for me. But I wanted to share this with y'all because Blemished is just me sharing my testimony in my life and what I'm walking through and all of that. And so I wanted to be transparent and share that with y'all. I don't know that that'll necessarily help anybody. I just want to share because y'all are my family. Also, I just wanted to encourage you and say, trust the Lord, because He works all things out for are good. And I think that it's easy to get bogged down into the negative and see tragedy and see things from just a really narrow and negative perspective and not see God for who He is, and that He is continuously in control and He knows what is best for us. All right, y'all, that is going to be it for today's episode. I will catch y'all in the next one. God bless y'all. and go and be a light out there. If you enjoyed this episode of Blemished, then please consider subscribing to my channel by hitting this button right here. If you would like to watch another episode of Blemished, then you can click the playlist right here.